It's strange how quiet a house can feel when your heart finally breaks. I remember sitting there at the kitchen table, staring at the spot where the sunlight used to fall in the mornings, feeling like the air itself had turned thick and heavy. Finn sat across from me, looking serious, almost noble, like he was doing something brave. He said the words so casually, like he was ordering coffee. "I think we should break up. You don't do enough around the house." At first, I laughed, actually laughed out loud, because how could I not? This man, this dreamer who I had supported for 6 years, was telling me I wasn't contributing enough. I looked at him, waiting for the punchline, but he didn't smile. He didn't flinch. He was serious. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. Instead, I just sat there, numb, letting his words sink in. The man who had spent years chasing one failed project after another, YouTube, NFTs, crypto trading, without bringing in a single steady paycheck, was now blaming me for the mess he was living in. Let me paint you a picture. I was the one who paid the mortgage every month. I was the one who covered the utilities, the groceries, the car payments. While Finn worked on himself, I worked overtime to make sure we didn't lose the roof over our heads. Sure, sometimes I forgot to put my coffee mug away. Sometimes I'd leave laundry in the basket for a few days longer than I should have. But God, was that really what mattered? After 6 years of holding everything together, this man decided my occasional messy kitchen counter outweighed everything I'd sacrificed. He started listing off my supposed failures like he'd been rehearsing this speech for weeks. "You never clean up after yourself. I do all the emotional labor around here. I'm always the one who has to point out what needs to be done." I sat there frozen, watching him rewrite our entire relationship. The dinners I cooked, the birthday parties I planned, the endless nights I spent comforting him when yet another passion project crashed and burned. Did none of that count? I thought about the nights I cried myself to sleep because I was so exhausted, and he'd be on his gaming headset, yelling at strangers online. I thought about the time I skipped Christmas with my family because he needed someone to help him edit content for a YouTube channel that barely hit 50 views. All of it, erased, dismissed, reduced to a pile of dirty dishes and unfolded laundry. Looking back now, I realize that this wasn't just about chores. It was about power. Finn needed to believe he was the one making the decision, that he was the one in control. Because deep down, he knew he had contributed nothing real to this life we had built, and it terrified him. I didn't cry that night. I didn't beg him to stay. I just sat there listening while a part of me, some buried, neglected part, finally woke up. Maybe it was the way he casually suggested I could move back in with my mom, like I was some unwanted guest. Maybe it was the smug way he mentioned turning the guest room into his new office. Maybe it was the way he talked about getting a dog now that there wouldn't be anyone to complain about the hair anymore. Whatever it was, something snapped inside me, and for the first time in years, I stopped seeing Finn as the man I loved. I started seeing him for what he really was, an opportunist, a boy playing house in a home he never built. And the best part? He had no idea whose name was on the deed. He had no idea that he wasn't kicking me out of my house. He was kicking himself out of my life. I excused myself quietly, went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't pack a single bag. I didn't make a single call. I just sat there, staring at the walls I had painted, the shelves I had built, the life I had fought so hard to maintain, and finally let myself feel the grief of realizing it had all been one-sided. 6 years. 6 years of loyalty. 6 years of patience. 6 years of believing that supporting someone's dreams made me a good partner. Turns out, it just made me easy to take for granted. I knew then that everything was about to change. But not in the way Finn thought. Not by me leaving, but by me finally standing up for myself. And honestly, it felt terrifying and freeing all at once. The strangest part was how normal everything felt right after the breakup. Finn stayed. I stayed. It was like nothing had changed, except for this thick, invisible wall that had sprung up between us. He moved through the house like he owned it, leaving messes wherever he pleased, blasting his gaming headset late into the night, tossing his dirty socks in the hallway like breadcrumbs back to his office. The guest room he was already claiming as his personal space. He barely looked at me, except when he wanted to mutter passive-aggressive comments about respecting boundaries or giving him space. Space. In my house? Sure, buddy, I wish I could say I immediately kicked him out, but the truth is, I froze. For the first time in years, I wasn't sure what the rules were. What were the rules when someone broke up with you but stayed in your house, pretending it was his? Was I supposed to yell, to cry, to beg? Instead, I just watched. And what I saw was pathetic and, honestly, kind of fascinating. Finn started bringing people over, not a lot, but enough to make his point. Friends, a few business contacts he was supposedly networking with, and then one day, Mila. I remember opening the door and seeing her standing there. She was beautiful. Long hair, expensive-looking nails, perfect makeup even for a casual afternoon. She had that kind of naive sparkle in her eyes that I recognized all too well. She introduced herself like we were going to be best friends. I smiled politely and let her in, even though every nerve in my body was screaming. And there he was, Finn, beaming like the king of the castle, giving Mila a grand tour. This is my living room. I'm thinking about redecorating soon. The kitchen's great for hosting parties. This is my office where I work on my projects. I stood there clutching my coffee mug, fingers white-knuckled around the handle, watching this man spin a fantasy. My house, my kitchen, my spare bedroom. And he was selling it like it was his personal empire, the audacity. But instead of exploding, instead of screaming, "You're a fraud," at the top of my lungs, I just smiled because something inside me had shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was curious, morbidly fascinated by just how far he was willing to take the lie. Later that night, Finn pulled me aside, like a parent gently reminding a rebellious teenager, and said, "I think we should work on a timeline for you to move out. No rush, of course. Mila and I are planning next steps." I almost laughed in his face. Next steps? Like what, hosting a housewarming party in my living room? But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I looked at him, smiled sweetly, and said, "Oh, don't worry about me. I'm handling everything." And he bought it, hook, lined us, and sinker. That night, as he lounged on the couch playing Fortnite until 3 a.m., yelling at teenagers through his headset, I lay awake upstairs thinking. I thought about all the years I spent believing in him. I thought about every rent check, every grocery run, every time I said, "It's okay, you'll figure it out," when deep down I was drowning under the weight of his dreams. I thought about how easy it had been for him to erase me the second it suited his fantasy. The next morning, while Finn was still drooling on his pillow, dreaming of Twitch stardom or whatever get-rich-quick scheme was buzzing in his brain that week, I made my move. I called a locksmith, simple, quiet, effective. The locksmith was in and out in less than an hour. I thanked him, paid the invoice, and sat down at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, waiting for the moment Finn would realize the party was over. And as I sat there, watching the sunlight creep across the floor, feeling the weight of the keys in my pocket, a strange calm settled over me. This wasn't just about kicking an ex-boyfriend out of my house. This was about reclaiming something I had given away piece by piece over 6 long years. My power, my voice, my life. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see his face. When Finn finally woke up and stumbled into the kitchen, scratching his head like a cartoon character, I was already waiting for him, sipping my tea like it was just another peaceful Sunday. He blinked at me, confused. "Morning," he said, reaching for the fridge like he hadn't just shattered our relationship and expected me to disappear quietly. I took another slow sip and said casually, "By the way, I had the locks changed this morning." The change in his expression was instant. At first, confusion, then panic. "What do you mean you changed the locks? You can't do that," he stammered. I tilted my head, pretending to think about it. "Actually, I can. You see, this house, it's in my name. Always has been." I watched the realization sink in, watched the blood drain from his face. He tried everything after that. He asked this in, he argued, pleaded, even cried a little. Real tears this time, not the dramatic ones he used to get out of responsibilities. "I thought you loved me," he said. "I thought we were building something together." Building something together? What, like a pyramid scheme of emotional labor and financial leeching? I stayed calm. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't let him pull me back into that twisted little world where his needs always came first. I told him he needed to grab his stuff and be out by the end of the day. Simple, non-negotiable. The kicker? Mila showed up halfway through his frantic packing, looking ready for another cozy evening with her new man. Instead, she found him shoving clothes into trash bags while I stood nearby, arms crossed, tapping my foot. The confusion on her face was priceless. "Wait, this isn't your house?" she asked. Finn didn't even try to answer. He just kept throwing things into bags like a contestant on some horrible reality show called Homeless by Monday. By sundown, he was gone. Mila was gone too. I guess her dreams of a Pinterest perfect life died somewhere between realizing Finn had no job, no house, and no plan beyond mooch until someone kicks me out. I stood in the middle of my living room, and took a deep breath. It was mine. All of it. The ugly couch I bought secondhand, the creaky kitchen cabinets, the scuffed floors I used to hate, every imperfect, beautiful corner. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat down on the couch Finn wanted to replace, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. It wasn't just about getting rid of him, it was about finally choosing myself. For so long, I had convinced myself that love meant sacrifice, that patience and support were the highest virtues, even when they were never returned, that believing in someone else's dreams was more important than building my own. But sitting there that night, staring at the blank TV screen, I realized something. I had dreams too. Dreams that didn't involve holding someone else's hand while they stumbled through life, dragging me down with them. And for the first time in a long time, I gave myself permission to dream again. I didn't know exactly what came next, but whatever it was going to be mine. No more carrying someone who refused to walk. No more shrinking myself so someone else could feel big. No more giving all my love, my money, my time to someone who never deserved it. I went to bed that night alone, and it was the best sleep I'd had in years. The days after Finn left were quieter than I expected. At first, the silence felt almost deafening, like an ache you don't realize you're carrying until it's finally gone. There were no late-night Fortnite matches blaring through the walls. No passive-aggressive sighs over unfolded laundry. No guilt trips disguised as jokes. Just me. And for the first time in forever, that was enough. But healing isn't always a beautiful, linear thing. Some mornings I woke up feeling like I could conquer the world. Other days, I barely made it out of bed, staring at the ceiling wondering how I let myself give so much to someone who gave so little back. It wasn't just losing Finn. It was grieving the version of myself who believed that love meant sacrificing my own needs. I started small, tiny rituals that helped me reclaim my space. I bought new bed sheets, bright yellow ones, the color of sunflowers, not the boring gray Finn had insisted made us look more sophisticated. I rearranged the living room furniture the way I had always wanted, without worrying if it blocked his perfect gaming sightlines. I filled the kitchen with flowers, with candles, with laughter from podcasts playing while I cleaned. I let the house become mine again, piece by piece. And the thing about rebuilding is that sometimes clearing out the old leaves space for unexpected joy. I reconnected with old friends I hadn't seen in years because Finn always said he didn't like people. I went out for spontaneous lunches, movie nights, lazy Sunday hikes. I laughed, real belly-deep laughs that left my cheeks aching. God, I had missed laughing. One afternoon, Caleb, one of our old mutual friends, reached out. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up the phone. Turned out Caleb had some tea to spill. Apparently, Finn had been busy telling anyone who would listen that I stole the house from him, that he had invested years of emotional labor and was now homeless because of my betrayal. He was spinning it like some twisted sob story, playing the victim to anyone with a sympathetic ear. At first, I was furious, the audacity after everything I'd done for him. But then I laughed, a real loud, unstoppable laugh, because the truth didn't need defending. I had the deed with my name on it. I had the receipts, literally, for every mortgage payment, every bill, every grocery run. So I did what I had to do. I sent out a simple, polite group message to all our mutual friends. Nothing dramatic, just the facts. The house was solely in my name. Finn had never contributed financially. Any claims otherwise were false. I even attached a photo of the deed and a few old utility bills with only my name on them, just to make it crystal clear. I wasn't going to let him control the narrative anymore. The responses poured in, messages of support, apologies from friends who had believed Finn's lies without questioning, even a few confessions from people who admitted they always suspected something was off but didn't know how to say it. As for Finn, the fallout was swift. Mila dumped him. Most of his friends distanced themselves. His own parents, after learning the full truth, cut him off financially. And Finn, sweet delusional Finn, ended up exactly where he had feared most. Alone, without a safety net. Sleeping in his car, burning through the last few bridges he had left. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it online. I didn't throw a party. I just breathed. Because healing, real healing, isn't about revenge. It's about release. Letting go of the anger, the sadness, the need for validation. It's standing in the ruins of what you thought your life would be and realizing you still have the power to build something better. For yourself, by yourself, because you deserve to. I thought that would be the end of it. That once Finn was out of my life, out of my house, out of my orbit, I could just move on. But Finn had one last trick up his sleeve. It started with whispers. Mutual friends hinting that Finn was telling different versions of our breakup to anyone who would listen. To some, I was a manipulative monster who had stolen his dreams. To others, I was a gold digger who had trapped him in a loveless relationship just to take his money. Money he never had. At first, I tried to ignore it. Let him spiral. Let him exhaust himself. But it wasn't easy. Every lie he told felt like a tiny cut, reopening wounds I was trying so hard to heal. Then one afternoon, my sister Nora dropped a bombshell. She told me Finn had reached out to her, crying, desperate, claiming he needed money to fight for what was rightfully his. And she gave it to him. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I trusted her, and she had trusted him. But then she smiled and pulled out her phone, showing me the text messages. Turns out my sister wasn't so naive. She had made Finn sign an IOU complete with repayment terms and interest. She even got him to put his beat-up car up as collateral. I knew he was lying, she said simply. I just wanted proof. Proof that Finn, after everything, was still the same person he had always been. A user, a manipulator, a boy who refused to grow up. And now he was drowning. Mutual friends sent me screenshots of Finn's social media posts, bizarre rants about how I stole his future and manipulated him into homelessness. He was painting himself as a tragic hero in a story no one was buying anymore. Even his parents, the people who had enabled him for so long, finally saw through the lies. They changed the locks on their house, cut off his Wi-Fi access, told him he had two choices: accept a real job with his uncle out of state or figure it out on his own. Finn didn't take it well. When I ran into his mom at a grocery store a few weeks later, she looked exhausted but relieved. She sat me down over coffee and told me everything. The GoFundMe page he started to reclaim his home, the lies he told to relatives, the desperate phone calls begging for one more chance. He's not the boy I raised, she said, handing me a small photo album. Pictures of Finn over the years, always glued to his phone or laptop, always chasing the next big thing while the real world passed him by. Keep it, she said when I tried to hand it back. Maybe one day he'll want to see the person he used to be. I don't know if he ever will. Maybe Finn will finally hit rock bottom and rebuild. Maybe he won't, but that's not my story to tell anymore. His journey, his choices, stopped being my responsibility the day I chose myself. Now, my days are quieter, but they're fuller too. I wake up in my house, in my bed, in a life I built with my own two hands. I fill the rooms with fresh flowers, Watsors, good books, homemade dinners. I invite friends over without worrying about anyone judging the mess. I dance in the kitchen with music blasting. I stay up late watching cheesy rom-coms without someone rolling their eyes. I dream again, dreams that are mine and mine alone. Healing isn't a perfect linear journey. Some days I still get flashes of sadness or anger. Some nights I still wonder how I let it go on for so long, but more often now I feel something else. Pride, peace, hope. And when I think back to the girl who once believed love meant sacrificing everything for someone else, I don't hate her. I thank her, because she was doing her best with what she knew. Now I know better. Now I choose differently. Now I choose me. And if anyone ever asks me about Finn, about how close I came to losing everything, I'll just smile and say, sometimes you have to lose what you thought you needed to find what you truly deserve. If you were me, what would you have done? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after trusting the wrong person?